Welcome everybody to Everyday Asphalt. My name is Jim Warren. I'm with TXAPA and we're glad to have you guys here today. This program is designed to go a little bit deeper in the areas of materials, design, construction, and maintenance. We post all these programs on our YouTube website. If you go to YouTube and type in Texas Asphalt Pavement Association or even TXAPA, you'll see our page here. And you'll also see our playlist for Everyday Asphalt. What you can do there is you can go there and we'd like you to like, subscribe, and share so you'll be notified whenever we get a new program up there. So when this program airs, we put it up. Generally, it posts about, this is a Thursday, it's going to post on Friday typically, and so then you can use it, you can share it with other people, and we'll be glad to do anything that we can help you with. All right, let's go ahead and get to work. Our guest today is Dr. Amy Epps-Martin. There she is. Welcome, Amy. And she's with Texas A&M University. She's the principal investigator on the Balanced Mix Design project, and she is a renowned researcher in the asphalt world. So, Amy, welcome to Everyday Asphalt.
Howdy, Jim.
Glad to have you here. Amy, for those who don't know, and I think probably most people do, but give us a little background on, where you were born, where you're from, where you went to school, what your career has looked like over the years, et cetera, and what you're doing now.
Sure. Well, I was actually born in Bryan, Texas. My dad, Dr. John Epps, was a professor at Texas A&M University. And so I was a little kid in Bryan, Texas. And then I grew up in Reno, Nevada when we moved there. And then I went to school at the University of California, Berkeley for all of my education. Which is also similar to my dad. And then I had my first job at Texas A&M University, which is also similar to my dad. So you'll see a pattern forming there. And I have had that job now for 26 years. So
wow.
I'm not an Aggie myself, but I'm a proud educator of Aggies. So that's where I am, and I enjoy what I do. Most of my research focuses on sustainable asphalt technologies.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. The first time I met your dad was at Reno, and we were actually, when I was with the Napa, we actually did a mixed design school out there for a number of years. So awesome. So, again, you've got a long career in this, and I understand that you're going to be the new president of AAPT next year. Is that true?
Actually, I am currently
you're
serving
current
as
president.
of
Okay.
AAPT,
Okay.
and I will be presiding over the annual meeting that's coming up in a few weeks, this month in September in San Diego. So yes, it's been a great year. You serve on the board for a number of years, but It's been a great year serving as president.
Awesome. And if you don't know, AAPT is a association. What is it? Screwing up. Association of Asphalt Paving Technologists, right? And what that is if you want to know about asphalt and you want to get into the detail, you want to get into the nitty-gritty detail, you should belong to AAPT. And they meet annually. They present papers, and they are an institution for peer-reviewed papers and research that is in the industry. If you get published in AAPT, you're somebody.
I want to mention that we have a virtual option again this year.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And we also have a discounted virtual option for agency personnel. So just something to consider.
So it's AAPT.org?
Oh, I don't know. I think that's correct. I think that's right.
Well, just look up Association of Asphalt Paving Technologists. You can go and sign up, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So we'll be glad to have you there. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Asphalt's not new. It's been around a long time. And, and doing some work, and even some of this stuff even predates your dad. And your dad is a cornerstone in this whole industry. But, a lot of the original mix design stuff, that goes back to the 1930s. Marshall mix design, Texas gyratory, all that kind of stuff. So we're starting to push into, 80, 90 years of this stuff. And, when those things were originally developed, even into Superpave, there's a big emphasis on designing your gradation to meet a certain amount of air voids and pick the optimum binder content from that. But the Marshall mix design had stability and flow, which was a pseudo strength test, shall we say. And then, a Tex gyratory had the beam stability, which is a triaxial stability device, right? And so, but when we went to Superpave, we didn't get a strength test, right? So what's the deal there? Why didn't we get, is air voids enough?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess Superpave was a big step forward, especially the PG binder spec was a big product of that, the Strategic Highway Research Program. And I was actually in undergrad during that program. But there was so much follow-on research after that program. And the original intent for Superpave mixed design was to have different God, I can't think of the name. Get different steps, different stages.
Right.
And so we ended
Level
up
one,
with
level two.
levels.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
different levels.
Yeah.
And the level one was what we all do. That's how we all practice, is volumetric mixed design. But there was a lot of performance testing developed to go along with that level one. And the thought was that for higher volume pavements and where there's more risk and et cetera, you would step up in the levels, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like we almost took maybe too giant of a step with the mixture performance tests then, because it was much more fundamentally based. It was measuring material properties that could be used for performance prediction and modeling purposes.
Okay.
And it kind of went a little too far in terms of being not as practical for everyday use. And so it had to be scaled back to the level one. And so ever since then, I don't think anybody ever thought that volumetrics was enough. Okay, it's important, but it's not sufficient, And so
that's a good differentiation. Yeah.
Yeah, it is important, but it's not sufficient. And so we've always been in search of the holy grail of what mixture performance tests can we implement that's practical during mixed design and production. And maybe those two are different, okay? Because in mixed design there is a little bit more time than in production. And so how do we, what's the right framework that combines all of this together? And that's kind of what we've all been searching for quite some time.
So is that kind of where we're at right now with balanced mixed design? Is that kind of like the next evolution or revolution of it?
Yeah. So for balanced mixed design, I said this to my 96-year-old PhD advisor, who's my dad's PhD advisor also. I said to him when I met him earlier this year in March that, we've got this new emphasis on balanced mixed design in the industry, but we've really been doing it forever. So you mentioned back to the older mixed design systems. The older mixed design systems basically had a high temperature test, right? Both the Marshall stability that you mentioned and the beam stability that you mentioned are 60°C tests. So those are, stability or rutting resistance tests.
Right.
But the idea was that, so you say, oh, that's not balanced, right? That's not balanced with rutting and cracking performance. But it was, because the idea was to put as much asphalt binder in there as possible without having a rutting problem.
Okay.
So the as much binder as possible takes care of the durability issues, takes care of the cracking resistance, takes care of the moisture resistance, and helps with aging. All of those things for longer term performance are helped by increased binder content. And so that was always part of the system of balancing and looking at mixture properties. So with balanced mixed design, we're really just trying to kind of bring that back, but we're also trying to, as I mentioned, make sure that we have a practical system that can be utilized for mixed design and production.
Gotcha. So is this just a Texas thing or is it a national thing?
No, it's all over the place. This is the hot topic, right? This is the buzzword of the day. So it kind of puts a lot of pressure on those of us working in this space. I'm fortunate enough to get to work with my dad on this project, so that's also, I want to mention that. It takes a big team of people to work on this, and really, I want to also give thanks to TxDOT for having the vision to invest and have university partners working on this together with them in collaboration, and industry. We have a TxDOT BMD industry working group that tries to keep everybody abreast of what's going on with this effort. But yeah, this is happening all over the country. Different states are at different stages. FHWA is also funding a lot of work in this area, and they're coming out with a lot of good guidance documents and sort of some structure, basically 8 tasks with a number of subtasks. And the good thing is they realize that different states are going to do things slightly differently, that there's going to be maybe some tasks aren't even considered in some states, some tasks overlap other tasks. There's going to be a different timeline in every state. And so what we're trying to do also is nationally have a working group where we learn from each other, because that's really has a lot of power to it. So we're working on that too.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, just look environment. You know, Minnesota to Texas, Minnesota to Laredo. I mean, it's a huge difference, and you got different materials. Obviously, you've got different binders, and trying to make one thing that's going to fit all those conditions is a really big thing. And honestly, as much as there's been a lot of the same stuff, every state's always kind of done their own little thing.
Yes.
You know, and that we'll probably end up there with BMD to a large extent. To a large extent. So let's get into the project a little bit and kind of describe a little bit what's you know, I think it started in 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so what's happened since 2019 up to this point, and then let's try to break it from there, and then let's talk about in another question kind of like where are we going. So what's happened up to this point?
So in 2019, TxDOT kicked off this effort, and it was a 3-year effort, and now we're on the second 3-year effort. So yes, it is 4 years almost exactly. And with that, we kicked off the first 3-year effort was TTI at Texas A&M, CTR at University of Texas, and CTIS at University of Texas El Paso, in collaboration with MTD at TxDOT.
So this just isn't a TTI thing. This is that the first time that's happened? Something that big?
Yeah, I think in my career, I should say. I'm not sure 100% prior to me coming here, but yes, it's like I said, it's a big, massive effort, and it really takes everybody to play their role.
Okay.
And what we did is we started off and we were developing field projects, because really we have to tie anything that we do back to field performance. We never have enough time or money to really do that appropriately. And that's, again, where a longer term project and a significant amount of funding comes into play. And sometimes that just doesn't happen. And so it really does take the funding agency to have the vision to be able to do that. Yes, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And so we developed a series of 9 field projects that were constructed starting in fall 2019 all the way through September of 2022.
Okay.
So about a year ago. And those were 9 field projects, but each field project had multiple field sections. So it ended up being 33 field sections scattered across, I think it's 7 different districts, because we have a couple projects in a couple of different districts.
Okay.
And so that's a significant amount of information.
Oh God!
And then
that's a lot of samples.
Yes. Our labs have lots of storage, material storage challenges. Yes, they do. But we basically were involved all the way from mixed design support for the contractors, all the way through. So we took component materials or raw materials, looked at them for lab mixed, lab compacted specimens. Then we were involved with trial batch verification. That was primarily UTEP, mixed design support, and trial batch verification. And then we were involved in sampling the raw materials again at production and making separate lab mixed, lab compacted samples, and taking plant mix and making plant mixed, lab compacted samples. And then we've taken cores. This is the key part. We've taken cores from at construction now all the way through 4 years on some of those early projects. And now we keep going. So now we're about to go out and get the after 4 years. So that'll be the 5th set of cores on those first projects. Okay. And only the second set of cores from the ones constructed last year. But that's really key to track the field performance as we go, and then compare it back to what we did during mixed design. And so we are looking at a number of tests. We're looking at the traditional Hamburg wheel tracking test that has been traditionally used here in Texas. Mm-hmm. We're looking at the overlay test that's used on some of the specialty mixtures. That is included in the first special specification for BMD 3074 that's from August 2019.
Right.
And then we are also looking at the newer ideal CT and ideal RT tests. Okay. And so we're doing all 4 tests, basically 2 repeated load tests and 2 more practical monotonically loaded tests. And we're trying to understand when we can use those. What's the right situations to use which tests, and what do those tests tell you, and are they sensitive to different mixed design variables?
Okay.
And then, so all of that's been going on for the
Up to this
last
point. Okay.
4 years.
Yep.
And what we're now moving into a new phase. Should I not answer the
Yeah,
the
go
question?
ahead, please. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
The new phase, the new 3-year secondary phase, if you will, is involved with pilot, what we're calling field pilot projects.
Okay.
So the first ones were field test projects. And for those, it was like a half day to a day's production for each of those sections. And now with the field pilot projects, we're doing multiple day production. Okay, so it's fewer sections on each project, but multiple days of each section. So it's going to be kind of about the same level of effort in terms of laboratory testing and characterization, but it's different. We're going to be looking at construction variability a little bit more closely and things like that.
Which we need to.
Another thing to note, I didn't mention that CTR is basically doing a lot of the binder characterization, including extracting and recovering the binders with all those cores with time. So that's been their
So they got a full warehouse too.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Okay, so you're starting at mix design, you're verifying mix design, I mean, obviously there's time between mix design and production, particularly with these projects because they were selected, right?
Yes.
And then so you're re-verifying mix design, then we're taking mix production, and then we're also taking cores out on the roadway. So you're really trying to capture every aspect of it, and then from a mix design, from an aggregate, and from a binder standpoint as well. So you guys have really, you've got the blanket over this thing. You're really trying to cover it.
It's very comprehensive, I guess you could say. We're trying to do a lot of things simultaneously. We're also looking at, since the ideal CT and ideal RT are newer tests, we're looking at trying to tie them to some older accelerated pavement testing work.
Okay.
So where we actually had some fatigue cracking. This will be at West Track out in Nevada.
Yep.
So we're getting some of those materials to see how the newer tests can compare, because we didn't have those tests back when that facility was constructed and utilized. So
exactly. So just trying to think about something here for a second. We've got now on this new section, this new commitment, this new project. Are you still going to go back and take cores ongoing from the other one? So you're going to continue that out.
Yes, all those 9 are continuing to be followed. So now there's 9 projects that they're going to go out this fall and get all the cores, and then there'll be, hopefully the plan right now is 4 of those field pilot projects, again, that are multiple days but less number of sections.
Gotcha.
And I also want to mention that during the development of all of these field projects, it's so critical, and we want to thank the industry contractors that are helping us do this. There's no way we could learn and do this and develop a good spec that without them. There's no way. We have material suppliers, we have contractors, and we have the TxDOT district personnel also. That there's multiple collaboration meetings before one of these goes, and sometimes they blow up and it doesn't work for one reason or another. COVID happened during this project. There are things beyond everyone's control that sometimes you just gotta punt. So
absolutely. So this next phase, as we move forward with it, then be doing multiple days. Are we going to try now to some of this testing, like the ideal CT and RT? Are we going to try to put that in the laboratory in the field and try to figure out how to do that with the extraction, gradation, all the other kind of testing that we're doing at the same time?
Yes, and we're going to try to keep track of, so one of the field pilot projects is in the Houston district. And so it's close enough that we can drive the material to our lab. And so we can kind of do things live, and we can determine if we can do that testing same day, how much staff does it take, how many ovens, how many water baths. We have the contractor grade equipment, not the research grade equipment, So we're trying to take that into account and sort of, I think we're calling it a silent shadow specification. So we have some changes to that special specification 3074 from August 2019, and we're going to try to do it by that shadow specification, and it'll help inform, the whole process. Like, is this doable, or what are the challenges? And also, I want to mention that these different sections in these projects, what we're trying to do really is increase the wrap content. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. So right now, Texas is more like 15 to 18% wrap content,
Yeah.
which is pretty low if you look at it
Yeah,
across the country.
we're below the average. Yeah.
Yes, the
yeah,
average is like 21 by the
yeah,
recent NAPA
yeah,
report.
yeah.
So 21, 22. So we're trying to push a little bit, and I think that's actually good. It's good economically, it's good environmentally, but we have to do it smart. We have to do it, and we have to engineer what we're doing. And
Right.
so there's a number of different strategies that you have to think about once your wrap content gets above 20, 25%. And so we're trying to figure out systematic ways and looking at these different mitigation strategies is what we call them, high RAM mitigation strategies. And, like using softer binders, using rejuvenators, even adjusting the aggregate gradation. Sometimes a big one that we want to look at specifically is decreasing the credit that you get from the wrap binder. So we call that decreased recycled binder availability, because we all sort of know that you're not getting 100% of that wrap binder.
Right.
And that can really affect that durability of the mixture. And so if we could even just bump it down to 75%, yes, you're going to have to put more virgin binder in there, but you're going to be able to use more wrap by doing that. And it's a big thing, and lots of different states actually have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a doable thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it might be the easiest thing. You don't have to have another tank for a different binder. But we have to figure out how that all works. How does that affect volumetrics? Can some of those be relaxed? We got to figure it out. So that's a big part of this next pilot project as well.
So the first rule of all research is there needs to be more research. Just kidding.
Well, yeah, of course. Jim, I've been doing this a long time.
I know, and you're good at it. You're good at it. All right, so I mean, there's just a tremendous amount of stuff going on, and
yes.
We're not ready for implementation yet. We got to figure out all the jots and all the little details and stuff. But from what you've seen so far, what do you think?
No, it's doable. I think it's doable.
Okay.
We've seen, and this is not just based on the TxDOT BMD effort, which is substantial, as we've noted.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm involved in a lot of different projects nationally, and they all sort of tie together, right? They're all related to increasing recycled asphalt materials.
Right.
But to do that properly, you have to make sure you have balanced mixture performance. So it's all interrelated, basically, and that helps me, right? So it's
sure. So we're all moving in the same direction.
Yeah, there's a symbiotic relationship there for sure.
Sure.
And so what we're hoping is also, again, nationally, to learn from what others have been doing, right? There's sections down in New Jersey and Virginia that I'm working with people in those states on different projects. And so we learn from each other, like what are the challenges, what are the easy things to do, what are the more difficult things to do.
Yep.
So we're working toward that. We're hoping these 4 field pilot projects are also going to be in sort of further districts further away or toward the extremes
North,
of the
south,
climates in Texas.
Okay.
So I mentioned Houston, it's along the coast. We're also looking at one in Amarillo and hopefully in El Paso and FAR.
Good.
And so that also expands our materials and our climates beyond the 7 districts that we had from the initial 9 field test projects. So
we need that. It's a big state. It's got to work.
Yeah.
It's got to work everywhere. We can't say, sorry, West Texas, you're on your own.
Right.
It's got to work everywhere. So that's good. I really like what you're talking about with being smart about the wrap. My word is responsible use of wrap.
Yeah. Right.
Which is doing it the right way and understanding what you got. And I like the idea of this binder availability concept. Again, like you said, I know some other states that are doing that, and they seem to be very pleased with it. And again, what it's doing, it's adding a couple tenths of asphalt.
Yes, it is.
Of new asphalt, virgin asphalt in the mix, and that seems to be making a big difference. And
I think
you wouldn't think that 3/10 asphalt makes a big difference, but I talked to Travis the other day about the NCAT test track, and Texas has got some pavements that they built with Texas materials in Alabama.
Yeah.
And they're finding this, a few tenths of asphalt seems to make a big difference in performance. So I think we're close. We just got to do some tweaking, and I think we'll get there. And Go ahead.
We've seen from other projects that we can go up to 40% wrap, and as long as you do it correctly. Now you got to
Right.
do a few more steps. I mean,
Right.
I'm not saying it's like the easiest thing,
No.
but we're trying to figure out things that we can take out. If we're adding more stuff, right? What can we take out of the spec that's not related to performance? That's not telling us anything, just as an example. So yes, we're working with TxDOT on that.
Good deal. Good deal. You know, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, and I just wanted to touch on it. You know, when Superpave came on board, that was back in the 90s, and you know they had this massive asphalt pavement analyzer device. AP, I can't remember the name of it.
AMPT.
AMPT, and it was huge, and it took a lot of effort and a lot of education to run it and all that sort of stuff. And but the idea was, and I know FHWA is still kind of pushing along those lines, is they'd really like to get the fundamental values.
Yes.
And be able to use that in the design, because we're having to make little leaps and jumps when we get the pavement design and pavement response and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
But it's so complicated and it takes so much time. That doesn't work for a contractor who's making 2,000 tons a day. When it's going to take a week or longer in order to get a result, then what do you do?
Yeah, and I sort of see it as where do you use these different tools, right? It's not like all of that is not good. It is.
Right.
But where can we use these different tools and that are still constantly being developed? There's always going to be new tools as well as new materials. And so when you have a brand new material, like even the fact that we're all looking at plastics right now.
Right.
When you have a new material, maybe that's when you need the different suite of tests and the different layers to better understand what's going on. Not necessarily everyday production. Yeah, I agree.
And I think, and you mentioned it with new materials, we also have to always be aware of unintended consequences, right? And we got to be thinking about environmental impact and those kinds of things. And we don't want to take somebody else's stuff that they're trying to get rid of and put it in our stuff, and then our stuff now become a problem. So we've also got to look at that, I think, from an environmental science perspective. Is that going to, the way we use it, how we use it, how we put it on the road, is that going to cause a potential problem? We need to be thinking about that, because we've tried some stuff before that sounded good at the time, but it's like, Well,
yeah, and my graduate work was on crumb rubber when it was mandated, and so we don't want things to be mandated when we haven't properly assessed their engineering performance.
Correct.
And how, and the environmental aspect of, can it be re-recycled? Because we definitely don't want to get away from our 99% recycled material status.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So well, good deal. So we've been down through this road a couple times, about, here's the latest and greatest thing, this is going to solve all our problems. And I know and you mentioned the Holy Grail earlier about having these tests that can finally tell us what we want. And I've been in the business now for quite a number of years, and I've heard this discussion a couple times. It's like, hey, we're close. This is going to do it this time. And do you think we're going to get there? Do you think we're going to have something that really moves the needle?
Yeah,
out of this? You do?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
And I think people are ready for, again, a way to increase the wrap content is to do something that's practical, that can show balanced mixture performance in terms of rutting and cracking. I think we have to take steps at a time. So again, even if we're going to require volumetrics and mixture performance, that might be the painful phase, right? Till some volumetrics can be relaxed, maybe. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but that's the goal, right? And the goal is to allow for more innovation, because if we trusted our mixture performance tests and the threshold, don't forget that part. It's not just the test,
right?
And the variability of the test matters a lot, right? And we have to keep doing. We have to stay on top of that in terms of how easy or how hard it is to get the specimens prepared correctly, and the technicians to correctly run the test. and we have to keep doing round robins, and we have to have all the manufacturers of the different equipment. I mean, we got to keep doing that. There's no way around that. There's just no way around it.
Absolutely.
And so we have to understand the variability, especially when we set that threshold. And we have to understand how to utilize that threshold, and that you don't want to live right next to that threshold. That's too much craziness, right?
You don't want to live on the edge.
Right, exactly.
Right,
so I do think that we're going to get there. And I think people somehow kind of want it. Like, it's like the volumetrics only is a little, little risky, I guess, if you will.
I mean, I've always liked something that gives me a number, some sort. Even, you know, I grew up, where I came from, it was all Marshall. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I did some Texas territory back in the 80s when I was here, but most of my career was Marshall and then Superpave. But you had a number.
Yeah.
Okay. You had a flow
number
on the mixture, and you could kind of tell, you know, as that mix is being produced, you could kind of tell when it was something was happening to it.
Yeah.
And now all we got is air voids, and we got a really strong compactor that's going to compact it. No matter what, even if the temperature's off a little bit. So having some other stuff, having some, you know, I've got a lot of hope in the ideal CT and the RT of being something that a contractor can use and be able not to be. And I've always kind of looked at it from a stoplight: red light, green light, yellow light. Okay, I run the test, you know, and I don't care. I don't need it to be to 4 decimal places. But if I can just get it to the 1 decimal place and it says green light, that means I can keep going. Okay? Yeah. But if I'm going along and all of a sudden the yellow light comes out, it's like, okay, I need to start looking at this kind of stuff. And if for some reason the red light comes on, I need to shut it off, just so I know I'm not going to have a problem in the field. So that to me is I think, you know, the maybe hopefully the benefit of taking some of this stuff into the field, that's going to give us, you know, a reasonable approximation of the Hamburg, of the overlay, of that. And it looks like, at least at this point in time, the data that I've seen says there's a pretty reasonable correlation there.
Yeah, I should mention that. There is a pretty reasonable correlation between the repetitive load testing that we're a little more comfortable with and the more practical ideal testing. I also want to mention that, again, we only have 3 years of field performance data, but we are seeing that there are some of those 33 sections that are starting to show cracking, and there are some that are starting to show rutting. Is it to the point where something needs to be done to the road? No. But the ones that are starting to show those distresses are the ones with lower ideal indexes. So that's good, right?
There's a relationship.
Yes, that's what we want. So
and I think that's important to I think that we had that discussion a couple of weeks ago about something else. Is like, when you do the research, you don't always want it to just everything to work. You want some stuff not to work, so you can figure out where the limits are, right?
Yes, we have to. Yes.
And I think that is really the true benefit out of it. So if y'all out there are hearing something, it's like, that BMD didn't work, it cracked. Yeah, we want some of it to crack. We want some of it to rut, because we got to figure out where those lines are, and that's going to give us confidence moving forward that we can actually trust the numbers.
Yes, and maybe confidence in some of those strategies aren't working. You know, so some of those things that we tried.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So when do you see Texas using BMD on a routine basis?
Well, that's a good question. So like I said, this construction year, I guess
next year.
2024.
Okay.
2024, but before a year from now, hopefully around then. We are hoping to get these 4 pilot projects down, and again keep tracking those other 9 field projects. And we're currently, and we're going to be using that kind of silent shadow specification. We're trying to use the ideal tests more, especially during production. But verify with the Hamburg and the overlay during mix design to make sure we know what both sets of tests are telling us, and again try to figure out when and where to use those tools. So the next phase would be hopefully like lead district projects where maybe the spec can be used on a real project in some of these districts where we now have, you know, some relationships, I
Yeah,
guess, and they
okay,
feel more
okay,
comfortable with
okay,
this.
okay.
So that's kind of the idea. Somewhere in the 10 or 11 districts that and it doesn't have to be that. I'm just saying
Right.
that could be a possibility.
Sure, but I mean, some are more progressive than others and want to try
Yeah,
stuff, and
sure, sure,
we would be willing to work with
sure,
that. So,
sure.
if I'm getting a read for you, we're a few years out, but it's going to be kind
Yes,
of a phased in kind of a thing. It's
yes.
not going to be all of a sudden day one,
No,
January something
no.
2028, or it's going to be, but
I'm
it's going to work. We're going to work our way into it,
yes.
which
I
makes
guess I'm
sense.
hoping before 2028, but
Yeah,
yeah,
which makes sense because then as we learn stuff, we can make
yes,
adjustments, and
yes.
we don't want to have 5 million tons out there and go, whoops,
No,
the specs wrong. As we kind of learn as we go, we can kind of continue to pursue that, and we've got a lot of
and
stuff to do. We got a lot of stuff to learn yet.
yes, and we have to keep the communication lines open, right? We have to have this TxDOT industry working group is critical to all of this, because at each round we're going to need as much feedback as we
Yep.
can get.
Yeah, it's been a good group
And
so far. Yep.
I think another thing to think about is how long things take to implement, really, right? Like this is actually going pretty good. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I guess, like, think about QC/QA specs or something along those lines. It takes time for everybody to get on the same page, have the education of what we're trying to do, get behind it, and then try to see if it's going to work and tweak it until it hopefully works.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're running out of time here. I'm going to wrap it up with two more questions for you.
Okay.
I've been asking this for this year for the panel. What keeps you up at night other than your kids?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think what keeps me up at night is, how do you balance your life? I mean, every day of my life is like that. I want to be a good mom and a good wife, probably paramount.
Yeah.
But I want to connect to people.
Sure.
I want to connect to my family, my friends, professionally. This is going to sound dumb to somebody, a middle-aged female like myself, but I try to make my parents proud every day still. I don't know why, but that's what happens. And
That's cool.
my mom hasn't been here for about 9 years, but I still think she knows what's going on. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's what keeps me up at night, is how to balance everything and how to take care of myself in the process. So,
Well, I know last year you guys did a Women of Asphalt panel.
yeah.
And because we recorded it here. And
Yeah.
I remember you guys had that discussion, and every one of you that were on the panel had the same thing. And I look at the same thing as, like, when I get done working, I just want to go home and sit on the sofa. I'm done. I'm going to play with the dogs, talk with my wife. But how do you do the other things to keep you balanced and sane and everything else?
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard when I know you're devoted to what you're doing and you're putting 110% in it, and I know where you got that from.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but he sets a high bar. Let's just
he
say
does
that.
set a high bar, but he's an awesome guy. He's an awesome
Yeah.
guy. All right, last question. Normally I say king for the day, but since you're here, I'm going to say queen for the day. You get to make any change you want in how we make and lay asphalt. What is it?
That's a tough one.
I know.
I think I would say that we need to understand our wrap better. We just have a wrap stockpile and we just call it wrap, like we can substitute it in for anything. Like we just think it's all the same, and it's not all the same. And so when we get up to these higher wrap contents, we need to better characterize that wrap. And there's research trying to do different ways of doing that.
Agreed.
But that would help us to be able to meet some of these goals of having high wrap. So I guess that's what I would say. I don't know if that's the greatest answer, but
Hey, everybody's got a different answer. I like it because if we're only adding 5 or 10% of it, it doesn't mean that much.
Yeah.
But if you're adding 25 or more percent, now it's a quarter of your mix. You got to know what's in that stuff. And
yes.
And so we're actually having that discussion in house. Is what do we need to be doing to kind of better understand, at least up to this point, what other folks are doing with their wrap stockpiles, and trying to at least get to that point. And then as you add more of it, well, then you're probably going to need more information from it, which
Correct.
sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
At least it does to me. So,
Yeah.
Amy, awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I really appreciate it. You did a great job, and
Thanks.
we're so glad that you could do that. So let me wrap up here a little bit, and let her slide out. That's all we've got today for Everyday Asphalt. Really glad you guys could join us in the process. Just a reminder that we do post these programs. They are posted up on our YouTube website. And again, give us about a day to get it translated and reformatted and up there. So the Friday after our airing here is typically when it shows up. Again, we meet third Thursday of the month at 3 o'clock, and we've been pretty judicious about that this year, and we're going to continue to try to do that. So in the meantime, thank you again for participating. Please be safe out there. Watch your back, and we'll see you next time on Everyday Asphalt.